Ravens fan, hold on tight, because the best news of the offseason just dropped. Everyone thought Baltimore would have a massive headache with the salary cap, struggling to keep key players and strengthen the roster with very little money. But the NFL just changed the game in a way no one saw coming. The salary cap increase was way bigger than expected, and this could completely transform the Ravens' plans for next season. Now, the big question is, how will Eric DeCosta use this extra money? Who stays, who arrives? And most importantly, how does this make Baltimore even stronger in the Super Bowl race? Stick with me until the end, because this news changes everything for the Ravens and might be the missing piece to finally bring home that championship. Go Raven! The Ravens entered the 2025 offseason thinking they'd have a tough time balancing the books. The initial projections showed the team would have only $5.9 million to spend, way too little for a team that needs to keep key players and still add reinforcement. That meant Baltimore might have to make painful cuts or miss out on crucial additions to stay competitive for the Super Bowl. But then, a game-changing announcement arrived. The NFL revealed that the 2025 salary cap will be much higher than expected, jumping from $277.5 million to $281.5 million, a massive increase compared to last year's $255.4 million. This cap jump was a gift for the Ravens, giving them more room to maneuver without making desperate moves. The impact was immediate, especially for teams like Baltimore that were tight on money, but still needed to build a strong roster. For Eric DeCosta, this opens the door to assembling a contender without sacrificing key pieces. The difference might not seem huge, but in the NFL, every extra dollar in cap space matters when it comes to keeping a competitive squad and chasing a title. With this unexpected boost, the Ravens situation isn't as complicated as it initially seemed. Before, the concern was how to retain key players without compromising long-term financial stability. Now, things have shifted, and Baltimore can focus on strengthening the team without making as many sacrifices. It's not a perfect scenario, but with smart planning, the team can make solid moves to stay among the league's elite. And what does this mean in practice? Over the cap is already recalculated, and the Ravens are now projected to have around $12.9 million to spend, a significant jump from the initial estimate. This extra money could be crucial in shaping the team's next move, but it still needs to be managed wisely. With a bit more breathing room, the Ravens can start strategizing how to maximize this financial flexibility. When the initial projections showed the Ravens would have only $5.9 million to spend, it looked like they were in for a brutal offseason. But with the NFL's updated salary cap, everything changed. According to Over the Cap, Baltimore now has around $12.9 million available, an increase of $7 million from the initial forecast. This doesn't suddenly make them one of the league's richest team, but it does give them much-needed flexibility to keep key players and target strategic reinforcement. This unexpected cap increase could be a game-changer for the Ravens. With more money to work with, Eric DeCosta now has options to restructure contracts, create even more space, and maybe even go after a couple of impact signings. The increase also lessens the need for difficult cuts, something that seemed inevitable before this announcement. Now, instead of losing valuable talent due to financial constraints, the Ravens can focus on strengthening the most critical areas of the roster. That said, the team still needs to be careful. Having $12.9 million available doesn't mean Baltimore can spend recklessly. They need to consider contract extensions for key players while also keeping enough room for in-season moves. Small maneuvers like converting salaries into bonuses or making targeted cuts could further expand their cap flexibility, giving them more breathing room for adjustments throughout the year. With smart execution, the Ravens can maximize this cap space and build a stronger roster without compromising their financial future. Now, the big question is how Baltimore will use this money to address their biggest need and ensure the team is even more competitive next season. Even with this cap relief, the Ravens still have tough decisions ahead. Several key players are nearing the end of their contract and need to be evaluated. Among the biggest names potentially hitting free agency are left tackle Ronnie Stanley, fullback Patrick Ricard, and other key contributors from last season. Baltimore must decide who is worth keeping and which reinforcements will be the best fit for strengthening the roster. The priority is protecting Lamar Jackson and keeping the offense running smoothly. That means DeCosta could consider extending Stanley or looking for alternative ways to reinforce the offensive line. On top of that, the Ravens may look for a new playmaker to help Jackson, especially after the struggles the offense faced late last season. Adding a high-impact weapon could be the difference between Baltimore staying a contender or falling short again. Defensively, the concerns are just as pressing. The team needs more depth in the pass rush and a reliable cornerback to play opposite Marlon Humphrey. The secondary was a weak spot in crucial moments, and strengthening this area could be key to maintaining a dominant defense. Additionally, players like Justin Matabike and Patrick queen might demand bigger contract, which impact the team's ability to make other moves. With more cap space than expected, the Ravens have the opportunity to address many of these issues. The next step will be determining which players will get new contracts and which positions need reinforcements from the market, ensuring the roster remains one of the league's strongest heading into next season. All right, we're past the halfway mark of this video, but I just noticed you haven't hit that like button yet. That's super important so YouTube keeps recommending my content to you, and I can keep bringing you all the latest updates. So go ahead and smash that like button. It's free. Thanks. Now let's keep going. Having $12.9 million in cap space is already a step forward, but the Ravens can still find ways to increase that margin. The team has a few options to do so, like restructuring veteran contracts and cutting players who are no longer part of the long-term plan. Small moves can free up a few extra $1 million and give Baltimore more freedom when it comes to bringing in reinforcement. One of the most common strategies is converting salaries into bonuses, something the Ravens have done in the past. This allows the team to keep key players without affecting immediate cap space too much. Additionally, contracts for players like Ronnie Stanley and Marlon Humphrey could be restructured to reduce the financial impact in the short term. These measures could create considerable space for the team to make strategic moves. Another possible route is cutting players who are no longer delivering as expected. Some roster spots could be cleared to free up cap space, especially if the Ravens find better options in the market. This doesn't mean dismantling the team, but rather making targeted adjustments to ensure a stronger and more balanced roster. Every dollar saved could be crucial when negotiating with free agents or extending contracts for key players. With a well-structured plan, the Ravens can turn a limited cap into a competitive advantage. Now, it all depends on the decisions Baltimore makes in the coming weeks to ensure the roster is ready to contend for the title. With this increase in cap space, the Ravens enter the offseason in a much better position than expected. Now, the team has a real chance to strengthen the roster without having to make drastic cuts or sacrifice future financial stability. This means Baltimore can maintain its solid foundation and still look for the missing pieces to take the next step in the Super Bowl race. This extra flexibility could also influence how the Ravens approach the draft and free agency. Whereas it seemed before that the team would have to rely solely on cheap picks, now there's room to bring in more experienced players ready to contribute immediately. Additionally, the possibility of restructuring contracts and freeing up even more cap space could allow Baltimore to bring in at least one impact player on defense or offense. What's clear is that the situation has completely changed from what was imagined at the start of the offseason. Instead of entering the market with limited funds and many restrictions, the Ravens now have the room to work smartly and strengthen the team strategically. This could be decisive in an increasingly competitive AFC, where every advantage can make a difference in the final stretch of the season. If Eric DeCosta knows how to take advantage of this opportunity, the Ravens could come out of this offseason even stronger than before. Now, the focus is on what the team's next moves will be and how this cap space will be used to turn Baltimore into a legitimate title contender. With this unexpected increase in the salary cap, the Ravens have a golden opportunity to strengthen the team without sacrificing important players. The cap space has almost doubled, and now Baltimore can re-sign key players, pursue strategic reinforcements, and still have flexibility for adjustments throughout the season. If Eric DeCosta makes the most of this moment, the Ravens could enter 2025 stronger than ever, with a real shot at contending for the Super Bowl. So, what do you think the Ravens should do with this extra money? Should they prioritize keeping players like Ronnie Stanley and Patrick Ricard, or go after reinforcements in the market? Drop your opinion in the comment. And if you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss any updates on the Ravens this offseason.